I had to do a kind of a farewell ceremony for somebody who had been involved with Carriage, the Peace and Reconciliation organisation I used to lead. And this person, who had been a volunteer many, many years previous, way before I was involved, had died, had been estranged from everybody in his life, even the people he'd known in Carriage, but had left a request that there would be some small ritual on the cliffside at Carriage. And so there was a few people that did remember him, and we gathered outside. It was a grey day, and we had his cremated remains, and people told the truth, told some tender stories about him, remembered the family who had chosen not to be there because of estrangement and their own safety. Safety is too strong a word, perhaps. I mean, I don't know the circumstances of those estrangements, but remembered them to think, well, may there be peace for them, because it doesn't sound like there has always been peace for them. And it was a small way of trying to do something that wasn't just about him, but it was about him. It was about the orbits of people and the strange way within which, even though he too had difficult relationships with people when he was at Carriage, there was something in him that wished to be brought back there, to be spread into the wind from there and over that cliff. And I suppose there was a hope there to think, well, I wonder, was there a hope for some kind of reconnection with family, who of course would have had very painful histories. Any estrangement comes with some break. I always want to know what the sibling companions in a text are. If somebody's using a text of power, a scriptural text, to say something terrible about another group, to think, well, what is the context of that book, which is often in poetic form, so we can understand something of it. Not to agree with it, but simply to think, okay, this text, for instance, a powerful one, the book of Leviticus in the Hebrew Bible, is a text of, in many ways, early sanitary advising to a population who were under threat and hoping to keep alive, and hoping that their population didn't decimate to the point of their own destruction. Suddenly you can understand a little bit of the context of this out of the camp, into the camp. If you can make the babies, make the babies. All of these things that are being said, rather than thinking of them as a terrible thing of, homosexuals are an abomination that might be said at a funeral of a gay person. Because I'm a gay man, I suppose maybe some of the brutalities of the text seemed very particular to me, and it's not like I love the texts that speak about abomination, but I'm not frightened of them anymore because I've seen the larger corpus. And I'm interested in looking at poems, not that poems are out there, not that too many poems are out there, writing invectives against populations of people. But I still have a respect for how it is that a poem, a line of a poem, or a particular poem has companions in the volume that the poet arranged it in. Because I like to know something about it. I like to know a little bit about the life from which it came. Not that will be the final word, because there is no final word in a good poem, because it will continue to be made and remade when it's received by new people. I started to read her very, very specifically. I'd loved her since we looked at that poem, Because I Could Not Stop for Death. He kindly stopped for me as a teenager. During a really difficult period of time as a conflict mediator, when there was one conflict that I was mediating that was just going on and on and on. I was eating up all my time, and I wasn't sleeping well, and I was waking in the morning and thinking about it, really overworked, underpaid, and underproductive when it came to being a mediator. And I think I just got fed up. I thought, screw it. I'm going to do what I've always said I'll do once I have time, which is to read through everything of Emily Dickinson. And I'd arrive into work, at 8:30 or whatever, having been up since early and having spent a couple of hours reading her poems or her letters, and feeling like I had been stepping in between the space where time and eternity meet through her work. And it was so enlivening to do that, and to, not in any direct influence, but to allow the imagination of that to be present when it came to the choice of language regarding conflict mediation. I've got a good friend, Peter. He's coming up today, actually, for a visit, and there was 4 of us out having pints of Guinness one night, and Peter and one of the other guys, they were both talking about their sons, and their sons are in their late 20s. And then at one point, Peter said to the other guy, how is it for you hearing about us talking about our sons when your son died in his 20s? And he just made this ritual. Rather than thinking, oh, I shouldn't have been talking about my son, because this other guy is a bereaved father, to just kind of say, it was a small gesture, a small ritual. And then the guy could say, oh, it's fine, or he could say more, or he could change the topic and say, I'm going to have to get some more pints, whatever, But it was a small, impromptu, pop-up, generous offering of curiosity that allowed some ritual to happen.
Yeah, so I love thinking of that as a ritual. It's sort of changing the definition or expanding the definition of ritual. Ritual is offering, ritual is authenticity.
And that mostly the circumstances that cause us distress or suffering are ones of profound change. The change from earlier life into midlife, the change when somebody's died, the change when something has changed, etc., etc. And to find a way within which, while an individual's experience of change can feel so particular and so isolating, without trying to say, oh, we're all the same, because we're not, or we've all been through the same circumstances, that there is the particularity of the truth of what you've experienced being echoed, and that's being brought into the great orchestra of all who've lived, who've all passed through times of change.